The 1993 Zambian national football team air disaster occurred in the late evening of April 27, 1993 when a Zambian Air Force de Havilland Canada DHC-5D Buffalo crashed into the Atlantic Ocean about 500 meters offshore from Libreville, Gabon. The flight was carrying most of the Zambian national football team to a FIFA World Cup Qualifier against Senegal in Dakar. All 25 passengers and 5 crew members were killed. A Gabonese official investigation into the accident concluded that the pilot had shut down the wrong engine after a fire. The investigation found that pilot fatigue and an instrument error had contributed to the accident. The flight had been specially arranged by the Zambian Air Force for the football team. The journey was scheduled to make 3 refueling stops. The first at Brazzaville, Congo, the second at Libreville, Gabon, and the third at Abidjan, Ivory Coast. At the first stop in Brazzaville, engine problems were noted. Despite this, the flight continued, and a few minutes after taking off from the second stop in Libreville, the left engine caught fire and failed. The pilot, who had also flown the team from a match in Mauritius the previous day, then shut down the right engine, causing the plane to lose all power during the climb out of Libreville Airport and fall into the water 500 am offshore. A Gabonese report released in 2003 attributed the pilot's actions to a faulty warning light and fatigue on the part of the pilot. The aircraft entered service in 1975. The plane had been out of service for 5 months from late 1992 until April 21, 1993. Test flights were carried out on April 22 and April 26. Prior to the departure for Senegal, checks revealed a number of defects in the engine, carbon particles in oil filters, disconnected cables and trace of heating. However, the flight went ahead as scheduled. Passengers, the Chipolopolo were a very promising Zambia national team. At the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul they thrashed Italy 4-0. They had their eyes on the 1993 Africa Cup of Nations trophy and a place at their first World Cup. All 30 passengers and crew, including 18 players, as well as the national team coach and support staff, died in the accident. The Chipolopolo's captain, Kalusha Bulawa later national team coach and now president of the Football Association of Zambia was not aboard the ill-fated flight as he was in the Netherlands playing for PSV at the time and had made separate arrangements to make his own way to Senegal to take part in the match. Charles Musonda, at the time playing in Belgium for Anderlecht, was previously injured and thus was not on the flight. Bennett Mulwanda Simfukwe, who had been seconded to the FAZ by his employers for 5 years and was supposed to be on this flight, survived the crash because his employers demanded that he should immediately be removed from the list of those who were officially scheduled to travel to Senegal. Investigation. A campaign to have the Gabonese crash investigation publicly released continued into the 2000s. In November 2003 a preliminary crash investigation report was released by the Gabonese government. Despite this, relatives of the victims continued to lobby the Zambian government to produce a report on how the aircraft was allowed to leave Zambia. Aftermath. The members of the national team killed in the crash were buried in what became known as Heroes Acre, just outside the Independence Stadium in Lusaka. A new side was quickly assembled, and led by Bwalya, faced up to the difficult task of having to complete Zambia's World Cup qualifiers and then prepare for the upcoming African Nations Cup, which was only months away. The resurrected team defied the odds, and displaying an offensive playing style, reaching the final against Nigeria. They took the lead in the first half, but the Super Eagles quickly equalized and followed up with the winner in the second half. In spite of the loss, the Zambian side returned home as national heroes. In 2012, Zambia won the Africa Cup of Nations in Libreville, only a few hundred meters inland from the crash site. The victory was dedicated to the ones who lost their lives in the tragedy. Zambia beat Carthage for 8-7 in a penalty shootout after the game ended 0-0 after normal and added time. List of victims: crew, Colonel Fenton Mahone, Lieutenant Colonel Victor Mubanga, Lieutenant Colonel James Sakaka, Warrant Officer Edward Nambot, Corporal Thompson Sakala, footballers, Efa Chibola, John Soko, Whiteson Changwi, Robert Waitiakani, Eston Millinga, Darby Makinka, Moses Chikalikwala, Wisdom Mumba Kelvin Malaysia Mutal, Timothy Wheat, Numba Mwala, Richard Mwanza, Samuel Chomba, Moses Major, Kenan Simam, Godfrey Kangwa, Winter Mumba, Patrick Bomber Banda, Coaching Staff, Godfrey Yurkar Chaitalu, Alex Kola, Wilson Mtonga, Wilson Sakala, others, Michael Mwape, Nelson Zimba, Joseph Bwalia Salim. Source: Today marks 19th anniversary of Gabon air disaster. Lusaka Times. April 27, 2012. Retrieved April 25, 2013. References. External links. BBC, Famous Air Crash Victims, Part 3, Sportsman, Accident Description at the Aviation Safety Network.